Hey everyone, it's World Watercolor Month still. I have been slacking, but today I'm going to share with you the word focus. And we're going to paint this cute little goat. Talk about focus. He was completely focused on his new girlfriend and they were heading in the car, and one of my friends snapped this picture on a Facebook page. So we're going to cover quickly how I did the tutorial. We'll go over this, and I'm also going to be using some new watercolors that I got from ZenArt. I'll be sharing those with you along with ZenArt brushes, and they sent these to me to review, to check out, and I'm going to share with you what I thought, so stick around. Hi, I'm Kelly from Kellie Chasse Fine Art. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to help you explore your inner artist with less perfectionism and more play. So let's get started. All right, you guys ready to focus on painting a goat? This is not my norm. This is out of my comfort zone, but I had a lot of fun and I'm going to share with you what I did. So I am using a 140-pound cold press watercolor paper by Arches today for this demo, and I have some new paints I want to share with you. Zen Art Supplies sent these to me. This is a kit called Allegro. It's Allegro, yeah. It's got 24 colors in it. So let's take a look at it. We'll open it up. They're beautiful colors. I'm curious to see how they're going to work. So I'm going to unbox it here for you. This is going to be the first time I'm using them. And oh, they come in this little kit. It is actually a little metal tin with little hinges. It's got a little lock on the front here. Pretty little design. Nice hard case. So that's really great for traveling, moving around. Looks like the sticker is removable here. We'll just leave that on there though. And then inside we have some a nice little palette. This is not ceramic, obviously. It's not metal, it's plastic, and it does have a small brush with it. It's a flat wash number 3, and this actually is faux red sable. That's what the hairs are. So we'll test that one out and see how that one works. And it also has a water brush pen. All right, so moving on. It looks like we have a little coupon in here and a little thank you note. Very nice little information here. And then we also have a little brochure, paint with colors of your mood. Taking a look at this one, they've got a lot of different sets out now, and this one is a student grade kit, but I've heard from the grapevine that they are actually going to be having some artist grade paints coming out, but we'll see. So it looks like they've got a small tin with for espresso. It's 12 half pan. They've got the Allegro, which is what I've got here. Serrano, which has more of your warmer colors and looks like it's good for seascapes and things like that, landscapes. And then Prezizio, I'm not sure how to say that one. That one, beautiful colors in that one. That one looks like we've got some metallics in there. So great for journalings and tangling, all that good stuff. All right, so let's take a look at what else we have in here. It looks like we have a nice little color chart, which is on watercolor paper. So we can go ahead and test out the colors that are in the kit. Very nice. So that could just stay in there. You always know what colors you have. And then there's a nice plastic sheet that is great, because if you're going plein air, you can just place that on top of your wet paints and not have to worry about getting it everywhere. It also has a little sponge in here so you can wipe off your brush, or if you're using, it comes with the water brush pen, so if you're using that, you could just wipe off your color. And they look like they're little sort of opaque, so let's see what they do when we add some water to them. So I do want to say I started out trying to figure out my colors here, and you can see I am working on the watercolor paper, and we started off with Hansa yellow, and the next one is yellow or ochre, and then orange, but then I'm like, this don't quite seem right. Well, I realized that they sent me the wrong card. The card that was packaged in this one is actually for the other set, the Serenio, or however you say it. So the colors didn't match up, and I was like, why aren't these matching up? So that's why. So I finally figured it out after like the third or fourth paint. So these are not the colors. So I ended up making my own. I just cut out my watercolor paper. I used that one as a template and I made my own little chart. So no big deal, just took a black Sharpie, and what it is, I took a look at that nice little pamphlet that they sent to me in here, and I could see that Allegra had these colors. So I turned it sideways and I could see that's how they had it matching up. So these all match up in the pan, just like you see them here in the pamphlet. And I must say, I was pretty happy with the colors and how they worked on the paper. All right, I have already sketched out my little goat, and I will be using my Zen Art brushes. I've been actually using these brushes for the whole month of watercolor month, but I've also been using them even before that. They sent them to me way in advance. So I've been working with these and playing with them, and I really like them. But they are a synthetic brush. Just keep in mind, if you're using synthetic brushes, they don't hold the water quite as well as what a natural hairbrush will do. But my goodness, for the price of these, I think you can find them on the website, and I'll put the link down below for you as well. I think they're on sale for like $26 right now. So that's right now. The prices could change if you're watching this at a later date. So just keep that in mind. But the link will be down below for you. So you will notice I am first going in with just some clean water, and I'm outlining the pencil line of the goat. I am going to go in just a little bit near the top of the head. You'll notice it's wet into the fur area. I'm not doing that everywhere, but because he's got some stray hairs on top of his head, I want to go in just a little bit closer. And then when I add the paint to that, I'm not going to go all the way in, but I want that to blend in a little bit in there. So just so it's not completely stark white, and it just gives a nice fur edge to it, if that makes sense. Trying to explain that one. My head's not going right, you guys. I had worked at the Airbnb for my brother. They just had a baby girl born, and I was getting up at like 3, 4, 5 in the morning waiting for the phone call because she was going to be going into labor. We didn't know when. We're waiting because we needed to help them out with breakfast that next morning, and they're about an hour and a half away from me. So it's been crazy. So I am so tired. Plus we have the new puppy. If you've been watching my channel, you've seen Avalon, and she is doing very well. She's so good, but you know, it's a puppy, so she's full of it. And she doesn't always sleep when she's supposed to sleep, but she's doing pretty good. I really can't complain. It's just been a long time since we've had a puppy. All right, so I am starting out, and the color I'm using is Quin Violet. Isn't that a pretty color? It's very vibrant. And I think I'm going to add just a little bit of the French ultramarine to that. And look at the color that combo makes. Isn't that beautiful? I'm just mixing and blending it wet and wet right on the paper. Again, just a really quick background, wet and wet. I just did get a little bit by the ear there. They're mostly white, but they have a little pink in there if you look at the photograph. So you can see the top is very soft looking. I didn't go real close, but the water is moving into that area, as everything is going to be running down. I actually have this tilted this time, just slightly. I don't always tilt my papers when I'm working on watercolor, but because I'm doing a wet wash background, I'm just going to have that run down instead, and I will lay this flat a little bit later. So he's kind of like a floating guy. He's just the headshot here that we're going to do, isn't it? It's such a hoot. The picture is such a hoot. I thought it was so funny. So now I'm just taking that wet brush with a little bit of clean water and just scrubbing that out just a little bit. Again, he does have some color up there. It's more of a gray shade, but that way it's nice and soft and it doesn't give me that real sharp edge. Like you can see it around the side of him and underneath. It's a very sharp edge, but that's really soft up top because he's got some little hairs that are sticking out everywhere. So now I'm taking my heat gun and I am going to dry this. If you look at it really close, you can see that it is starting to buckle a little bit, but I did wet this paper beforehand, and even still it buckled. But once I blow dry this or dry it with the heat fully, once it's completely dried, that will flatten right out. So these paints do have a little bit of granulation on some of them. You can see some beautiful texture in here. Really pretty. Of course, it dried a little bit lighter. It's not as vibrant, which all watercolor does that. I do want to mention to you guys, in case you didn't know this, if you sketch something out with pencil, once you put water all over that pencil line, you cannot erase it. So if you need to do any kind of erasing marks before you add water to it, do that, because the water will set your lead pencil and you can't erase it after that. It's a little heads up for you. So my pencil lines are fairly dark, so I want you to be able to see it. I am now going in with a little bit of masking fluid just for some of those really bright white highlights that I see. And I'm going to put just a little bit here and there for the real bright white area of the fur, but he really is kind of a grayish shade and even has a little bit of brown down on below the collar there. So I'm not going to go too heavy with this. You'll also notice I'm using one of my older Cotman brushes for this. I've been using for a lot of my videos my calligraphy pen, which would have been really good for the really fine hair. But again, I wanted to do this quickly. I'm still doing this in the World Watercolor Month, so I've been challenging myself to do things a little quicker than what I normally would do. So this is a very loose, watery type painting. I do some of the details because I'll tell you at the end here, you'll see where something didn't look quite right. I didn't have it quite right. So I went in with some details to fix it a little bit. So I've let that dry. The masking fluid is all dry, ready to go now. And I'm trying to decide what colors that I want to use first because it's kind of a pinky peach type color for around the ears and inside the ears. So I mixed up a little bit of the burnt sienna and also the Carmine. I think that was the one I used. It could have been the English red. I think it was English red. Yep, I'm looking at my color sheet now. It was English red and burnt sienna. And it gives you a nice little pinky brown type shade. I'm just filling in some of the areas here where I see that pink color. I didn't want to go too pink yet. It is, now that I'm looking at the picture though, it is pretty pink. But we're going to go with a more neutral shade because I'm working with my cool tones. And I'm using a lot of water in this as well. Remember, the more water you use, the lighter it's going to be, the lighter that pigment's going to be. Great thing to do when you're unsure, when you're first starting out. Start with your lighter shades and just keep adding your darker values as you move along. So I'm going to paint in some of those darker areas using that same color. Kind of a pinky brown shade. Just going in where I see some of those little bit darker values. And remember, I've kept some of the areas bright white by using the masking fluid, but I didn't use a lot of it. So I decided to make the color pink because I just thought it looked really nice with the background, and I wanted to try the Opera Rose shade out, and it's absolutely beautiful. Love that color. And then I'm going to add a little bit of darker values on here. It's not going to be just like the color that's in the picture. So I don't know if that's a seatbelt or what that is, but we're going to make it prettier. And I think this is a boy. I think his name is Clover. So the Clover can have a pink collar, right? So now I'm going in with some of the darker values in that mouth area. Now this is a little tricky because if I'm looking at it, it's got like a red tint or a pink tint to it, and it fades out and it's really dark in the very back there. So I'm going to go in just with that very light shade around there, and I'll probably go a little bit darker with the black as we go. And I do have to lift this part out. I think that's his gums. I don't think that's teeth. Gums and a tongue. I think he's a little guy still. I don't know. I have to ask these questions to find out. So I thought that was pretty cool because most watercolor kits don't have lamp black in there, and this kit does. So I am trying to be careful. I'm adding a little bit more water to it so it's not quite as dark. Now I often will use black gouache. So having the lamp black in here is nice. I can add the grays without that opaque or chalky consistency. I'm adding it to the little nostril areas, and again, those fade out. They're darker towards the center, and then they get a little bit lighter gray pinkish color towards the outside. And then we'll make this tongue really pink. Pinker than what it is in the picture. And now I'm going in with a little bit of a gray blue for the eyes. I think I did purple first because that's what was on my brush, and then I added the blue to it. It almost has a pinky purple blue hue to, it's not really the whites of his eye, they're actually a little bit more gray. And then filling in that same pinkish area around the nose. And this is where I made a mistake. If you look at the nose, it's his lip directly underneath. So I don't realize that while I'm painting along. I actually realize that later, and I go back in with a little bit of white gouache and highlight underneath there because it just looks like a dog's nose rather than a goat's nose. It's a little bit smaller. It has a little bit of upper lip that's jetting out. I have dried that, and now I've gone back in with some darker values again, adding a little bit more of that pinky shade around the ears. I don't want to cover it up too much because I want to keep it mostly white. I don't want it too dark, but I do want to get a lot of those gray, blue, pink tones in there just to soften everything a little bit. So we don't want it, he's not actually white, even though it's a white goat. There's a lot of other colors in there. And then once we remove that masking fluid, the white will really pop out. So I'm going to do a few more details here. I'm just trying to darken some of those areas with the black again to really get them to pop. We'll add a little bit of that black in the eye. I do have those little highlights in there. And I am using, I think, the number 8 brush for this, with ZenArt, but I'm using that very tip. So I'm basically doing the rest of this using that brush, with the exception at the very end. I needed a little bit of fine tip brush, so I'm going to use a different one at the very end for some fur. Outline those eyes a little bit. And like I said, I do have the masking fluid under there, so we'll remove that and have the highlight in there. He's coming along pretty good. It's like I almost could stop at this point right here, but I keep going, adding a little bit more. Again, just trying to catch those areas that I see that are a little bit darker. Blow drying again. You'll find that with this type of painting, I'll blow dry a lot because I don't want to have it wet when I'm going in with those details, or else it's going to go where I don't want it to go, especially with some of these fine lines. Again, just darkening around the eye area. And now I'm going to give a little highlight here with a little bit of white gouache. One more dry, and then we can remove the masking fluid. It's really important to make sure that your watercolor is completely dry before you do this, or you will smudge and smear things, especially those darker colors. So I'm just using my hand. You can see now it looks much more white. You've got all those beautiful tones of grays and blues and pinks in there, and it's just not quite as flat that way. So I could be done at this point, but I'm going to go just a little bit further here and add just a few more of the details. Wanted to give the collar just a few darker shadows in here, and I decided I'm going to do a little bit of pen and ink in that one as well on the collar because it has a little bit of texture stripes in the material. I'm going a little bit darker again with the black, maybe a little bit of purple in here. I have a little bit of a line here. And you might be able to hear my puppy squeaking her dog toy. Sorry. I'll try to edit that out with the sound, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then I realized this is where it's off a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit more white gouache here because I realized that that is the upper lip area and not part of the nose. So I continue to work that a little bit, adding a little bit more white gouache and a couple highlights. Again, just making some texture of some really fine hair here and there. And I probably could switch out to a smaller brush if I wanted to at this point. But I'm going to use just the tip of that. This is just the little final touches, final details, just sharpening things up a little bit more. And we are just about finished. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you stayed focused. And I hope you give this one a try. I'm going to continue to work a little bit more and I'll share with you the finished results. I worked on it for maybe another, 8 to 10 more minutes. So again, this was still a fairly quick painting. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a like and a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like these type of tutorials. This one's a little bit longer. And I hope you're trying World Watercolor Month. It's been a really fun month. I know I've missed some days, but 31 days is a long time to stick with watercolor. It's great for learning, great for practice, and it really can bring your skills alive. So keep going with it, keep trying it, and we will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.